Hi folks, Doc Jake from Sioux Nation Ag Center here. Now, after water, the most important component to successfully weaning calves is to make sure they get a good quality source of feed.
Whoa, so what they're eating is more important than what vaccines I give them? Man, you have changed my world.
Good. So as I said, making sure calves receive a good quality ration is extremely important to those calves staying healthy when they're weaned. Why is that? Well, the immune system requires energy in order to function correctly. And let's face it, the only way those calves are going to get energy is through the feed. Sure ain't coming from the sun. Now, my goal today isn't to go over what you're putting in the bunk. That's a good question to ask your nutritionist. Rather, what I want to talk about is how you are putting it in the bunk and how you're utilizing your bunk space. You can have the best quality ration in the world. However, if the calves can't access it at the times that they're eating, well, it doesn't do them a lick of good. Now, to make sure the calves can actually access the ration, the first thing you want to do is make sure you've got enough bunk space for the number of calves that you have. If you're weaning calves, I like to see at least 24 inches of bunk space per calf. Now, that's quite a bit of bunk space, but you have to keep in mind these calves are probably going to all come up and eat at the same time. So you need to make sure there's enough room for all of them to get up at the bunk and eat when you deliver feed. As we get farther into a backgrounding period, we can shrink that down to 18 inches according to the data from Kansas State University. However, you're going to want to make sure you got that 24 inches when you get started. The next step in making sure calves can actually access the feed is how the feed is delivered into the bunk. It doesn't matter whether you're delivering it with a mixer wagon or a good old-fashioned 5-gallon bucket style. We want to make sure that this feed is spread evenly across the bunk. With a nice even pour like we have here, no matter where the calf is on the bunk, they'll be able to access the right amount of the ration. Now, if we don't get it even, it doesn't matter that we have enough bunk space, because only the calves that are on the side of the bunk that have the feed or have the most feed in front of them will get a chance to eat. Sure, you'll probably see them push each other around, and all of them will probably at least be able to grab a bite over here just based on the fact that they'll push and fight with each other. But that's not what we want at weaning. At weaning, we want to make sure that access to feed is easy and smooth. That's why when we dump that feed in the bunk, we want it level the whole way across. So in addition to how you put feed into the bunk, the environment as the calves come up to the bunk is equally important in the calves' ability to access feed. If there's a lot of mud between the bunk and where the calves are laying down, two things are going to happen. First, the calves are going to waste a lot of energy that would have gone towards growth just getting up to eat. Second thing that's going to happen is they're not going to want to make smaller, more frequent trips to the bunk. Instead, they're going to make it in one big trip and try to load up all at once. That's not good if you're trying to prevent bloat.
Say, Doc, what's your thoughts on putting a cement apron in front of my feed bunks?
That's a great question, Generic Rancher Ron. If you are going to be building a new pen to wean calves into or considering modifying your current pen, I would strongly encourage putting a concrete apron in front of the bunk. That's going to address the mud problems that we talked about earlier. Anything that you can do to make it easier and more comfortable for calves to come up to the bunk and get the amount of ration they need is going to keep those calves fed so their immune system's fed. A fed immune system makes it more likely to have a healthy calf, which is always critical to feeding that bottom line. In a receiving pen, which would be very that was stupid. All right. Woohoo! Like a hot tub, but with corn instead of water. I should have thought about this before I dumped it in there. This would be kind of a pain in the butt. At $5 a bushel, I'm not leaving this sucker out for the birds.